Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Thursday. It is December the 19th, and the CR is dead. Just remember, when you hear the term bipartisan bill, what they mean is that Republicans are voting for it because Democrats negotiated better. We always used to say this before the election, is that Republicans like to just lose more slowly. Everything about that bill looked like garbage. 1,547 pages now in the scrap heap. A lot of people printed off a really big stack of paper that all needs to go into the shredder. So that's fantastic news if you guys are just tuning in for the first time and hearing that. Amazing, because we were just talking yesterday about what garbage this is and how this was predictable and how they do this to us every time. We are seeing a new era. And I have some reflections on what that looks like, why it is that way, and that the media, in addition to the CR, is actually dead. And they are not happy about this kind of stuff. It's really fun. Kind of amped up today, as you guys can tell. We're going to get into all of that. I've got a slew of fun stories, including things about Walmart, DEI, how this relates to globalism, child sex trafficking. I've just got like this whole palette full of things that we're going to touch on. So you guys are going to get a lot of information today, in addition to, I hope, being entertained. And stick around to the end for sure. Make sure you have liked and shared this video. Our last few minutes in our palette cleanse is going to show you how you can be radicalized by camping and Bigfoot, which you're going to definitely want to see how that gets done, because I think many of you have had this experience. And if you are a recovering liberal, or if you have friends who might be soon, if they're stepping on that yellow brick road down the red pill path, then you might want to get them there. All right, that's where we're going to go with it. Today we're going to say start off with my friends over at the Wellness Company. And this is a really cool product for whatever it is worth. In the moments of emergency, you don't have time to hesitate. You got to be deep in the woods. If you're hunting, if you're living off grid, you got to be prepared for anything that life throws your way. The Wellness Company's Emergency Field Kit. That's the name of this one, is a robust personal emergency care that can give you the edge when seconds count. It's packed in an IP67 military grade waterproof, dustproof case. There it is on the screen. It looks awesome. This case isn't just built tough, it's built to save lives. And inside, you're going to find life-saving antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, non-addictive pain reliefs, and even a generic EpiPen for critical allergic reactions. You've got over 70 conditions that are going to be covered by this kit. It stands ready to help when medical help is not nearby, when it may be miles away, or not even an option at all. Each kit includes an 85-page medical guide written by the Wellness Company's medical board, giving you step-by-step instructions on how to handle emergencies with confidence, designed for adventurers, survivalists, or anybody who refuses to leave their safety up to chance. You can gear up with the Emergency Field Kit, the Field Emergency Kit today, so that when the unexpected happens, you won't just survive, you'll conquer it. If you're the man of the house, this is a perfect gift to ask for this holiday season. Digital gift cards are available. The kits are only available in the United States. TWC.health/Kyle. TWC.health/Kyle. Use that code. Save up to $120 on that kit itself and get free shipping. Really, really neat looking stuff. If you guys have not seen it on our video podcast, check it out. Let's get right into the mix now. I'm amped. Okay, we want to start with this. This was something that I had on tap yesterday, but I didn't want to get into it for some reason. I don't know what the reason was, but let's start with DEI isn't actually dead. And you're thinking, Huh? What? Isn't it though? Yeah, no. The media needs to kind of keep this thing alive. This is coming from the subscriber section of CNN. People spend money to read CNN's webpage, which is full of crap. Luckily, we have some bypass mechanisms here because I am a trained former investigator. DEI Isn't Dead, written by Nathaniel Meyerson. He has an extra H at the end of his name, too, that I don't know why. Walmart, Ford, other companies are making changes to their diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI policies in response to online pressure, legal threats, and customers. You know, the people that they're theoretically serving that are opposed to the initiatives. Why would they want to do that? But activists are overstating these surface-level changes that many companies are making to get rid of the heat. A CNN review of company policies and interviews with consultants and DEI proponents has found... Someone should teach this guy how to write. That is a really goofy, long sentence. DEI, while under harsh scrutiny from critics who say that it is, in fact, reverse discrimination. It's alive and well in corporate America. Nah, we know. For now. Why are they celebrating this stuff? Why is this something that they want to get behind? The Heritage Foundation has found that DEI, last month, there was 486 of the Fortune 500 companies still have some statement or corporate commitment to DEI on their website. Yeah, we know. We know this is happening. We're aware of it. What they don't realize, what the media sort of behemoth can't process, is that the tide has shifted in this country, that people are not interested in being classified by their skin color. They don't want to do the thing that used to happen, which used to be called racism, when you evaluate people based on external and immutable characteristics and don't consider them based on the value or the content of their character. This seems really straightforward. Meritocracy. These are fundamental American values. Why would we not want that in America? Why would you advocate for something else? Is it because you think that people can't actually compete on merit? And if so, I would say that you're kind of a racist. That seems to be the thing. We know that it only occurs whenever they are most interested. It only props up people that don't need to be there. I've got a funny little clip that I'm going to play you, which I think is from MSNBC. It has to be because it's such a hard left take on this nonsense. The idea that women of color are the people that should be leading the way. Why? Because of the way they look, not because they have some great characteristic. The characteristic they say is sort of irrelevant. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the thing that they assign the value to. And that's the reason why the left is going to continue to lose. It's the reason why Bigfoot could radicalize you. It's the reason why this CR is dead. Because Americans, regular Americans, not the people in power, not the people that are in elected office, but actual regular Americans have a new voice. And it's popped up in a way that didn't used to exist. It's moved into a space that has happened in the last, let's say, 18 months. And we've been all here to see it. If you're watching us over on X, you are watching where this is happening. Elon Musk, we covered it the other day, said you are the media. And you are. And I am. So we are changing the game here against legacy media, and they haven't figured out how to cope with it yet. Because they're still putting out messages like this. Watch this one. This is truly insulting if you were just going to break it down in its own small little clip of 20 or 30 seconds. I don't even know what this lady's name is. It's a black young woman. She's probably not much younger than me, so she's not that young, I guess. She's got dreadlocks. She's eloquent at speaking. She's sitting. She looks nice and presents herself well. And she's saying that basically because of skin color and gender, which is more accurately called sex, people should take over entire political parties because this fantasy thing she made up. You listen to this and tell me if this argument hits home with you. Look, I hope they do it. I hope you let people based on immutable characteristics run the Democrat Party because I don't want to see them win. And we just saw a massive loss yesterday, which we're going to get into deeply a little bit later in the show.
The party should be led, to your point, by young women of color. Right, because young women of color are the reasons that Democrats do actually have some of these wins. And we know how to communicate in ways that reach that more moderate voter, but also that progressive.
Wait, why do you know how to communicate? What does that have to do with your skin color or what's between your legs? How does that make any sense at all? And of course, it's on Joy Reid's program. So she's over here encouraging it. She's not a young woman of color. She's like a lady who culturally appropriated Donald Trump's haircut for a while before she got called out. She's in her 50s and she makes, a couple $1 million a year. It's just racism. And it doesn't matter how you call it. It's just what it is. It doesn't make any sense. Maybe that's why this is another story. This is one coming not from CNN, but from NBC News. Walmart employees are now wearing body cameras in parts of the United States. Body cameras and the videos that they gather are commonly advertised as a way to prevent shoplifting. But Walmart intends to use them for worker safety. Oh, well, why do they need that safety? Who's acting inappropriately? Who's breaking the law inside Walmarts? Just a lingering question that I generally have. It could be anybody. It's not racially tied. But people who don't know how to obey the normal boundaries within society, that's definitely the case. It brought me to a story that I saw in Detroit the other day. I'm going to share a video with you. It's a little bit longer. This is a police spokesman. He's a heavy-set black guy. He kind of looks like Alvin Bragg, for whatever that's worth. I don't think it's the same guy, but he definitely has the same sort of build. Kind of doughy, kind of soft, kind of looks ridiculous in a uniform. And he's giving a statement about something that happened. You can imagine where this would go. I don't condone people firing shots over a bag of chips or low-level shoplifting. But I can understand the instinct, and maybe you can too. And maybe people in Walmart might as well. If they're wearing freaking body cams like police officers because they're likely to get engaged in a physical altercation, or they need to track the amount of people that are trying to steal their products, which are already not very expensive, relatively speaking. Why would they have to do that? This police officer is dealing with a mob of, you're not going to believe this, but young women of color, just like brought up on the MSNBC clip. And they are screaming the most logical thing possible. They are saying that they want to see a grocery store, a convenience store, which is probably some of the only food in that area. They want to see a convenience store shut down. They want an American business owner not to be able to do business. And the reason that they want that done is because somebody in their community who is not a social person, an antisocial individual, came in and decided to just disregard all social conventions and steal, walk in, take stuff, and leave with something that wasn't theirs. Now, that's a parental failure. If you're a kid and you steal a lollipop, and I may have had this experience when I was under the age of 6, you've done something wrong and you learn from it. If you're a grown-up and you do the exact same thing, what you've said is that I am not capable of living in a polite society. I'm going to come in and take something that belongs to somebody else because I don't value my life. I don't value their things. I don't value their hard work. And I don't value the transaction that is supposed to happen in commerce. I think every young person, I'm just seeing it in the chat over here, had some experience when they were younger where they took something that didn't belong to them. My daughters went through this. Actually, we got to do a really great example. One of my daughters took like a salt rock from a grocery store. And we brought it back and we made her present it to some poor store clerk who didn't know anything about the situation and said, I took this and it wasn't mine. And she learned a really valuable lesson, which was public shame. And that you don't do this. If you want something, you ask or you buy it. Apparently, some of these people never had that experience. So the inevitable result of having bad parenting, of not having boundaries, of not understanding how society is supposed to work, is that you might get shot at someday. Should it be over a bag of chips? Probably not. But what's the level? What is the acceptable level of theft that we're willing to listen to? How much are you allowed to take from another person without paying for it, without having an agreement that that person's property means something, that their rights actually matter? How much are you allowed to go and infringe on? And I think that actually leads us to where our government is stealing from us blind, trying to give our money away, and they just ran into a hard wall. That hard wall's name is Elon Musk. Let's start with the video from Detroit, and we're going to work our way into this dying CR that just happened and why I think they're related. Here we go.
Lock the door, unlock that. Shut it down. When we want now. Today, now. No. Thank you. Make a hole.
An employee of this business over an incident that appears to be shoplifting came from behind the glass outside and began discharging a firearm at an individual whom they suspected of shoplifting. Those actions, putting this community in danger, is not okay. It is not acceptable.
It's despicable.
Before we get to the city councilwoman here who's going to go and tell us that she wants to see this business shut down over it, nobody in this entire video, none of the people that are clipped out and none of the people interviewed seem to have any idea about personal responsibility. Somebody walked in, recklessly disregarded the property rights of the person running a business, and now the answer is shut down the business? I mean, they're going to be able to make their business work somewhere else. In some ways, I kind of hope that for them. I hope that they don't put up with people that want to act like animals. They don't have any of the rules of society. They don't have any rules. They don't have any value on what other people work their butts off for. If that person came from behind the glass in the counter and decided to get that upset about it, do you think it was the first time they saw this person? Do you think it was the first time this happened in that store? Do you think that they're running on a margin that is so lucrative that they're just stealing blind from this community and they're going to shoot somebody over like $3 bags of chips? Probably not. It's probably an ongoing problem. They're probably hemorrhaging things, and loss control is a real issue. Where's the personal responsibility that you've decided that your life is only worth that of a bag of chips? I seem to remember another guy that did something very similar. His name was Mike Brown. It was the Ferguson story. Stole it from a young, a small brown guy who ran a convenience store, punched him in the face, rolled out. Then he decided to punch a cop because when you make bad decisions and that's part of your life plan, it probably ends up not working out for you long term. Anyway, this is a city councilwoman in Detroit saying that she thinks it's the business's fault for existing.
It's inhumane what has happened here. And this is one of the second incidents that has occurred at this location. And I'm hoping that this gas
Can I just stop for 1 second? Because if you are this inarticulate, it's one of the second instances that has happened in this location. That just triggers me because it's so dumb.
station will be closed permanently with a capital P. Because to chase someone down and shoot at them because allegedly they stole something, I understand it was a bag of chips. Whatever it was. His life was worth more than $1. It couldn't have cost more than $1. And it could have
First of all, it's 2024. This is Joe Biden's America. It was at least $3 or $4 in this world. Apparently, she hasn't been into a grocery store in a while, and she probably hasn't been into a convenience store. His life wasn't worth more than that, it turns out. Who gets to choose that? The guy who did it. Where's personal responsibility in this? Where's any of this? It's not inhumane. It's somebody defending their property rights. And somebody asked me, what if that happened to you? Would you shoot somebody over a bag of chips? It's like, well, I don't eat chips. So if you stole a bag of chips that belonged to me, it'd be my kids eating it. And that's a maybe. That's a strong maybe. Quote me on that. If you come and steal from my children while I'm there, yeah, there's a real possibility that you have decided to engage in violence because they're going to hold on to it because they're little. And you might have to deal with the consequences. So to answer people's questions that are very, very upset about it, it's a strong possibility. Choose your own adventure in life. And if your adventure involves taking things from others with force, then you might meet force, especially if you present an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to either me or another party near me. The end. All right, we'll continue on because there's another lady who has a lot of wisdom to add to this problem.
Place that. Come on, you have to value life more than that. And until we continue to get the type of respect in our community that we deserve, we're going to shut them down.
All right, they're going to shut them down, and I can't help it. I just make fun of people that sound ignorant when they say things. We until we get the respect, how about you go out there and behave in a way that's worthy of respect? And if you want to steal things from people like a bag of chips, which is such a casual disregard, and I know that I'm kind of blowing this out of proportion, but it's the reason why Walmart employees are going to be wearing body cameras. This is not a small problem. This is a nationwide problem in certain areas. I hear these same exact people complaining about food deserts. And why is there not? And they all are the same people, by the way. They are like ignorant black women who are uppity about something that they are not doing. The thing they need to be doing is encouraging values in their community. Where are you lecturing the young men that are doing these kind of thefts? Get your house in order before you want to come after the businesses that are simply trying to exist and trying to survive in a relatively difficult climate right now. I have almost no sympathy for this. It's the same lack of sympathy I have for folks that want to go and cry about illegal immigrants having a rough time in America. You broke the law to get here. You no longer get anything. Screw you. Get kicked out. There was this great video, which I didn't pull because I have too much Tom Homan already for today's show. But Tom Homan, they were like, are you going to separate families? How are you going to deal with the problem of separating families when you have to deport people? And he's like, it's really easy. We'll just deport the entire family. Yes. Yeah, we're going to respect life. We're going to respect families. And we're going to move you back to where you belong because you have no right to be here. And neither do your kids. And neither does anybody that you dragged across. I'm sorry you spent your life savings and now you're in debt to a cartel because you make bad decisions. This is a you problem. This is not a me problem, and it's not a problem of my audience. None of you out there should have to pay because somebody else made stupid decisions with their own life and their time. Sometimes it means that you get arrested and thrown out of the country. Sometimes it means you get shot because you've now presented a danger. The end. There's not much more to it, for whatever it's worth. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to pivot over here before we get into like a really kind of fun and silly story that I have about murder hornets, which if you guys don't know what murder hornets are, I will help you because it was a big deal. I remember the scare tactics on it. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. Before we do, we're going to pivot over to one of our sponsors. And this one is my Patriot Supply, preparelikekyle.com. Folks, this is the crunch time. New admin being sworn in soon. Can't come soon enough, but as great as that is, it means that our enemies still have days to stir up trouble. I've got more on that at the end of the show. Could be a cyber attack, could be an invasion, could be terrorists, God forbid, a nuclear strike, something like that. Make sure that until the longtime bureaucrats are out of Washington, we don't take any chances. None of us should. That means you have to have emergency food. I have mine from my Patriot Supply. Right now, they're offering $100 off their 3-month emergency food kit, the same one that is stacked up in the Seraphin closets. It's 2,000 calories per day for 3 whole months. It's plenty to get you through a prolonged emergency. All of their food kits are guaranteed to last up to 25 years if you store them properly. Just keep them out of the sunlight. And they come in rugged, waterproof buckets, which are actually quite easy to stack and tote. Go to preparelikekyle.com right now to order your 3-month emergency food kit. It's what I've got in my house because my safety and my security is worth it. Yours is too. Preparelikekyle.com to order your 3-month emergency food kit now. Check it out at preparelikekyle.com. Do so if you please. If you want to be prepared. Some of you have already done this, but if you haven't, get smart about it. Okay, you ready for murder hornets? Things that you don't have to prepare for? Because they're gone. The murder hornets are gone, whatever the heck that means. They've been eradicated. So saith agricultural officials. Now remember, if you went back a long time ago, 2019 to be exact, a time when I was still working for the FBI, this invasive species was confirmed. There were exactly 2 verified reports of said hornets, and they were going to spread across the whole... This reminds me of the Africanized honeybees things that I remember when I was in high school. They were going to invade the United States and take over. We were going to have Africanized honeybees, whatever the heck that is. Sounds racist. By tackling the threat head on, we protected not only pollinators and crops, but also the industries, communities, and ecosystems that depend on them, says the deputy administrator for USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services, a guy named Mark Davidson. See, your government does something for you. They eradicate a small number of hornets with God knows what cost per hornet, and they are no longer here. And it only took them 5 years. It only took them 5 years to get rid of these things. I don't even know if they're showing the so-called murder hornets in this little tube that is on the screen here. It's just the picture that came along with the CBS report. I do think it's funny. Every once in a while, someone will tell me that it's a big deal that we have a government shutdown. And this is how you'll remind them that it is. Because murder hornets can be taken out. It's totally critical. In the meantime, not to be outdone by the murder hornets, here's another invasive species, terrorists. And we're letting them back into the wild. We are reintroducing them into their native habitat. So saith ABC News. This was a story from, yesterday. The Pentagon has announced 3 transfers out of Guantanamo Bay in the last 24 hours. So now we're in the 48-hour mark of this. That means that there are exactly 27 detainees that are still hanging out there. The 2 that were sent were Malaysian, and then they also just sent a guy who's Kenyan, but grew up somewhere else. I read his whole story the other day, and I just got bored with it. But they're all named Mohammed, which is very interesting. Mohammed Farik bin Amin is one of them, a Malaysian guy. Mohammed Nazir bin Lep, a Malaysian as well. They have to serve 5 more years in their home countries. I'm sure that'll go well, and I'm sure they will not be a problem to us in the near future. Or is it that the Biden administration is introducing the terrorist version of murder hornets back into the wild so they can come back and bother us? We'll see. Time will tell. I'm sure they've gotten plenty across the southern border. More on that in a second. Officials have also announced the transfer of a Kenyan named Mohammed Abdul Malik Bajabu. All of them have been sent out. There are 15 more who are eligible for transfer under Obama-era policy. You're going to be shocked to hear that. Of the 27 that are left over at Gitmo, the 2 detainees were announced for transfer on Wednesday. They have been brought before military commissions. They pled guilty to multiple offenses, including murder in violation of laws of war. And we're letting them back out into the wild because we are so kind, so thoughtful, and we just can't help it. Kind of has globalist scumbag written all over it. Yesterday, we talked a bit about our neighbor to the north and maybe the annexation of Canada. I had one very negative comment who says, "You cannot annex us." I mean, yeah, we can if we want. I don't think we want to, but if we wanted to, we could. And some Canadians would certainly welcome us. I actually had some Brits from across the pond reach out and say, please come to Britain next. We would be happy to come and live in North Dakota. Just give us some space and allow us to holiday in California. That doesn't sound like a terrible idea. We could take over. Having like an entire nation state aircraft carrier of Great Britain for the American military system. That's not terrible. We could take on their military too. They probably would join us as well. They probably would enjoy that. Here's some Canadians calling Trudeau a scumbag. It's language alert, but they don't like him. Tom Green was not wrong.
You fucking scumbag! You're garbage! You're garbage!
They don't seem very happy. They don't really like him. I'll just leave that on the screen as it kind of runs around there. There's a huge police escort and a bunch of people carrying Canadian flags, patriots, I'm sure, who think that their prime minister is a scumbag and a traitor and so on. Not real big fans of this guy. Why? Because he hasn't protected his own country. People think that he sold them out. Kind of interesting because we're going to be talking about people that seem like they sold us out in just a second. How about one more little video of a woman standing up and accusing him to his face? I do love it when citizens get up and speak freely. We're going to talk about free speech and the reason why I think the CR is dead in just a second. So let's continue on. This is a little kind of like a dunking tour on Justin Trudeau. Definitely not the love child of Fidel Castro. Here we go.
You've sold us out to globalism.
Okay.
You are not working for Canada. You are working for your globalist partners. I wonder how much they're paying you to betray Canada. What do we do with traitors in Canada, Mr. Trudeau? We used to hang them for treason. And you're doing that very same thing to us now.
Okay. What do you even do when you receive this kind of thing? When somebody, you're just standing up there and you just get lambasted by one of your constituents? It's difficult. It's probably got to be, and he kind of just grimaces. But the other thing is he doesn't worry about it, at least not right now. This is why the media was trying to run cover and saying Donald Trump is the cause of the discord. No, his policies are the cause. And people who think that they have a right to speak freely are the cause. She's getting it done. So good for her. All right. Let's talk about not the neighbors to the north. We're going to go to the neighbors to the south. Before we do that, let me just ask all of you that are watching right now, if you're watching on Rumble, if you're watching on X, give us a like. I'd appreciate that. If you're watching over on YouTube, where we've reintroduced our Murder Hornet podcast to the wild, go ahead and give us a like. Share it with your friends if you like. Here is a story that broke out of Colorado the other day. We heard a bunch about this. I wondered when we would hear more of it, because when you leave people to fester in your country and they don't have respect for the law, they tend to break more laws. It might start with a bag of chips. It might end with a home invasion. Here are some people from Trens de Agua, the Venezuelan gang, apparently doing, capturing of properties, keeping people hostage, kidnapping, and so on, reported by Fox News. 14 people were arrested because of this. Tom Holman has his work cut out for him.
Okay, Aurora, Colorado now. This is a live look now. The sun is up there in that state, and police have now detained 14 people and reported armed home invasion. That's the same apartment complex where a lot of people were complaining about the armed Venezuelan gang members roaming the halls. Reports indicate that investigators said that several suspects entered the apartment and had two people inside. The suspects then reportedly moved the victims to another apartment complex, or rather another unit on the property, where police said they were found threatened and bound. An adult man sustained a non-life-threatening stab wound. At the moment, police say it's unclear if the suspects are connected to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, but we'll get a live report in Colorado 30 minutes away and bring you the latest on that developing story.
Yeah, no big deal. Just people taking each other hostage. Non-life-threatening stab wounds. Those are the kind that I always want to have. If I'm going to get a stab wound, I prefer to have a non-life-threatening stab wound. I put the chat back up here so you guys can see the talk going on. If you guys are joining us over on anywhere else and you want to get into our chat, you can do so over on rumble.com, and you will find the best chat in the business. If you're listening to us on the delay, you'll be able to see it if you're watching on Spotify. So if you listen on Apple and you're thinking, hey, I've got Spotify too, we always add that video after the fact so you can watch it over there too. You can have your choice. If you're walking and you don't want to look down at the screen, you can do that. But if you want to see it, this is what it looks like. This is what we're all about. Okay, I just saw the chat mention it, so let's go ahead and play it. Tucker Carlson talking about What is he talking about? Child prostitution? Is that a thing, folks? I'm going to give you my reflection on that in a sec. He brought up something that is kind of ugly, but in my experience is accurate. One of the sort of hidden costs of letting all these people in over the border, the so-called migrant workers and stuff that are doing a lot of construction, there's kind of something ugly that most of you probably don't realize if you haven't worked this business.
So if you go to any construction site in the United, big construction site, they're building a data center or a mall. I know this because I know a guy who in the business just told me this. Anyone in the United States, there will be child prostitutes there from Latin America brought in by the cartels for the guys on the cruise. And I said, does everyone know this? He said, well, everyone knows it. I mean, it's just a fact. Every big construction site in the United States. Does anyone ever do anything about it? No, no one ever does anything about it.
Wait till January 21st.
I don't understand that, though.
No,
if everyone in the building trades knows that, how can law enforcement ignore it?
We're not going to starting January 21st.
Good.
But I can tell you, look, of the over 300,000 this government lost track of, I guarantee you, as I sit here today, we'll find many in forced labor. We'll find many in forced sex trafficking. That's the sad thing. We're going to find them. So that's why President Trump's saying, seriously, we got to save these women and children that are put in this position. The immigration consequences will still come, but first we got to save and get these kids. As far as the kids, over 300,000, we got to save these kids.
It's a fact. What he's saying right there, everybody has a little piece of this puzzle. When I used to work out of the Washington field office, you guys know my job was in surveillance, which means I got to touch all kinds of different cases. We touched a lot of counterterrorism cases and what those look like. Some of them legit, some of them not legit. We also touched on a fair number of gang cases. And one of the jobs that my team had the sort of inglorious duty to do was to babysit people as they checked into their house and sometimes sit on them overnight until SWAT came and grabbed them in the morning. The reason you do that is because you want to visually verify that the human being that you are going to go grab is in fact in the place where you're going to go hit. So that's a thing. It's called putting them to bed. You tuck them in. You sit there overnight. You keep somebody on the eye so you make sure that the vehicle doesn't leave and the individual doesn't leave. You know why we had to be there overnight? Because they all woke up really early, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, because they all worked in construction, all of them. And MS-13 and other gangs as well, but MS-13 was the one that we were focusing on at the time where I was. It was very common that they were working in construction trades. And it was also very common that when you had a gang takedown, it dealt with two things: the extortion and the violence against women, very common to the point where it was ubiquitous, and child sex trafficking. Usually what they would do is they would co-opt some 15, 16, 17-year-old gal into their gang. And I'm sure she was being abused as well. And the way that she would work herself out of an abuse and having to turn tricks on behalf of these guys was that she would go out and recruit others. So she'd go to house parties, they'd throw parties, invite her friends that she would make, who were also disaffected youth, who also had a fight with their parents because they were living in a place they were not familiar with and they were uncomfortable with. And then they would lure them away, take them to the gang and say, wouldn't you like to join this brotherhood, this group of people that'll protect you and treat you like family? And they would say, yeah, I would. And then the guys would say, great, welcome to the gang. Now we're all going to rape you. And then we're going to put you out on a mattress somewhere and have other guys come and pay to rape you. 10 a day, 20 a day. When they got done with their construction jobs, they would come with their fresh paycheck straight from the construction sites where they were working illegally, and they would immediately go and dump it into these brothels. And these brothels would take place. They would be set up very quickly in some crappy hotel or in a crappy apartment, and they would just filter in. And it's really hard to prove that because you don't have probable cause to go in there to verify what's happening, but you can see the traffic at the door. So they're either turning drugs or because of the time that they're there, they're turning tricks in there. And it's children, 14, 15, 12 years old, whatever. It's absolute evil. The last couple arrests that we did with my team in the Washington field office involved exactly this. It involved going after sex traffickers who we wouldn't even see. But they ended up rounding up like, I think 13 or 14 in a single day. We went and grabbed a whole bunch of them, and they had been doing it for months, and they would always have someone else step into that space. So every one of those guys that we grabbed was either at a construction job or being followed away from a construction job, and we picked them up either en route to or on the way home or whatever. It's very common. Holman's right. For whatever reason, CNN doesn't like that. Caitlin Collins, a female, who would not have a good outcome in that scenario, She doesn't like it. Here's a little video of sort of the gangster necessity of what has to happen. The sort of just, this is how it'll be. This is what we demand. It's weird to watch mainstream media run cover for essentially what? Drug traffickers and child sex extorters.
So how many days after Trump is sworn in before this effort to carry out the mass deportations begins? I know you said it starts on day one, but after how many days will we actually start to see that happening?
Day one.
It's not even complicated. It's just like all you need to do is let the people that do these jobs off the chain. I've talked to my buddies that are working in task forces alongside members of Border Patrol, working alongside members of ICE, HSI, and so on, the various different DHS entities. They're so excited at the selection of Homan. They're so excited about Donald Trump winning because for the first time in maybe 4 years, they're going to get a chance to do their job. They are chomping at the bit to get after this stuff because this evil is not like, it's not unknown. But there's no appetite by the DOJ to prosecute. There's no authorization for funding or for, the command structure to approve the work. Let them off the chain. Open the gate. These guys will run them down. They've been watching. They've been waiting. They just want to do the work. So there are plenty of people that are ideologically aligned within federal government that suck. They're terrible. There's also an awful lot of people out there that really want to get the work done. And they're just hoping against hope that if they just wait long enough, they're going to be authorized to do so. And I hope it's day one. I really do. For the sake of children, for the sake of the people that are suffering under this. I hope those people all get deported back to something they know because they don't belong here. It shouldn't be our problem. You allow people to do small things that are criminal and it gets bigger and bigger. This is the window pane theory. This did prove itself to be very effective in New York City. They went after people for doing what? Spray painting in subway cars and on subway platforms. You stop the graffiti and you stop the murders. There's a direct line between tolerating some crime and all crime sort of gets its way worked in. So this is the argument in favor of it. For whatever reason, the left doesn't like it. And that seems very troubling to some of us. Certainly to me. All right. People that the left doesn't like as well, my friends over at Patriot Coolers. Let me just go ahead and throw this out there. I didn't create a new slide, but patriotcoolers.com is the website. And you can also find the Kyle Seraphin selection, which is the suspendables merch. They look like this. It'll be a cup that is pre-engraved if you guys are so inclined. This is the 30 ounce. You can get a 40 ounce. You can get a 20 ounce. You can get a 19 or a 16. My kids were all drinking out of those in the car the other day. We went and drove around and we looked at Christmas lights last night and let the kiddos have some hot cocoa. There's a new special running right now, and it may not be up live at the time that I air this live, but I guarantee you that if you check in, Kyle, Kyle 15 should be correct. Gary over there, who's been on the program before, is going to set up a promo code just for you guys, just for the holidays, just until the end of Christmas, actually to the end of Boxing Day, or whatever the heck that is in Canada. PatriotCoolers.com. Promo code KYLE15 saves you an additional 5% during these next couple days. And because they are U.S. based, because they have U.S. warehouses, there's a decent chance if you're like in the Southwest, if you're in the Southeast, you might even be able to get them before Christmas. Definitely worth looking into. Check out patriotcoolers.com. Use that promo code Kyle15 for the next couple days. I will update it. I'll push it out on social media. But if you're looking for the best discount, that is just behind the Black Friday deals, which is pretty cool. Okay, we're going to get into the CR. You guys ready? Because this is going to be good. Here we go. There's Mike Johnson walking to a podium. Government shut down Looms after the House conservatives revolt over the GOP-backed spending bill. An interesting way to phrase that because it's not exactly GOP-backed. What it is bipartisan. And it's been mentioned over and over and over again that it is a bipartisan bill, and God forbid, everybody agreed on it. And then we started breaking down what was in there. A couple of really interesting things that were in that bill. What they did in order to muscle people out, so you guys are aware, is they essentially said, anybody who lives in an area that was hit by this recent set of hurricanes, Helene and Florence, if you want to be able to back your constituents by refilling the coffers of FEMA and giving federal disaster assistance, we're going to add that. That's going to take up a couple of pages. And then we're going to add 1,500 plus pages of garbage, of pork and of nonsense that we want to pass as this sort of swampy establishment, elitist, globalist garbage. We need to give money to Ukraine. We need to give money to all of our little pet projects. We need to work a bunch of DEI in there. We're going to redefine a bunch of terms that are all Democrat terms in order. I've read some of the things that were redefined, and it was like they redefined people who were incarcerated as people who had, what was it? Like people who had affiliations with the legal system. That was the same thing as people who'd been arrested or people who went to jail. It's just a bunch of crap. It's all of this soft peddling of low expectations. And what we saw through all of the exploration, one of the things is that you've got AI that can read it right now and summarize entire pieces of it. And you had a divide and conquer method where folks were explaining what was in this bill in short order. And one of the things that I saw that was most interesting was a codification and a removal of the power of the Secretary of Health and Human Services to touch the vaccine schedule. How interesting that when you have an RFK who's looming as a potential confirmation for HHS secretary, they wanted to remove the ability of that secretary to even consider, to even ask questions about childhood vaccines. So everybody got in there and got their piece. All of the big lobbyists got a little touch in that 1,500 pages, and it failed. Let me just prove to you what I'm saying about the sort of outrage over the vaccine piece, because it's quite interesting, I think, when they tell you exactly who they are. This is the guy named Paul Offit, and Offit is a director at the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He's on CNN talking about how dangerous RFK would be. Are you going to tell me that this person doesn't have his entire livelihood tied up in childhood vaccines when he runs the Vaccine Education Center at a children's hospital in a major U.S. city? Shouldn't they just ask the simple question, and how much funding does the pharmaceutical industry pay to maintain your hospital job? How much of your livelihood is tied up in this thing? How conflicted are you when it comes to talking about this particular topic? Anyway, here he is not getting critically interviewed by CNN.
One thing that Tommy Tuberville said that should be a key to exactly what RFK Jr. is going to do is he said, I just talked to RFK Jr. And we talked about how do we really need all these vaccines? That tells you everything about what RFK Jr. is about to do. He is about to do everything he can to destroy the vaccine program in this country. And I think it is a dangerous time to be a child in the United States of America.
Wait, we can't even ask the question? Do we need all these vaccines? Is that really a problem? Why can you not answer the question? Do we really need them all? Do we need vaccines for STDs in newborns? Is that a requirement? And if so, why? What's the evidence that requires it? Some of the things that you start finding out when you look into like just the way that American health is run and that it's sick care and not well care. And then it's also sort of, it incentivizes the provider, but not the people who are being provided the service. How about the thing that all of your kids probably had? All but one of mine did too. It's the little goop. It's the antibiotic goop that they get put in their eye. It's required by state law in the state of Texas, unless you opt out. And you can opt out. And it's in case the birthing mother has an STD that she's already been tested for and has already likely confirmed not positive for. It's for STDs. Because if you don't put that goop in there and kill off this bacteria, then it can cause childhood blindness. How many people does that affect in America? How many people does it affect when they're in a monogamous partnership and the mother was already tested for it and she's tested negative? The answer is probably none, but I guarantee you they charge for it. So we had that option and we opted out for our last daughter. The first three, they all had it. What does that do? Probably nothing. It's a goop. But do you really need to be getting that in your first couple seconds when you've been introduced into the breathing world that the rest of us all live in? It's crazy. It's absurd. And it doesn't serve the infant. And it doesn't serve the mother. It serves the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors that are actually pushing this. They all get money out of it. It doesn't mean that doctors are bad. I don't think they are. And I don't think that there's, if I break my arm, I want to go have it treated. If I have a long-term or a significant, trauma or a disease process that I need to have treated, yeah, I'd like to do it. But wouldn't it be nice if we were able to ask questions about it instead of just saying blindly that you cannot ask questions about vaccine schedules and why they have to be crammed in so quickly? You know why they have to be crammed in, because that's when you're most worried about your kid and you're not going to ask questions about it. You're like, God, I don't want to be the person that screws up. They tell you all the possible negative effects. When I had an experience, I was in the FBI Academy. One of my buddies, who I no longer talk to because he was at the raid on Mar-a-Lago, one of my buddies came down with shingles. And that shingles, which is a virus, it moved into his spinal column. So it went from one of his dermatomes into the spinal column, and so he ends up with meningitis, which is a terrifying thing, and it's really, really debilitating. And they needed to do a spinal tap to confirm it. They had to do a lumbar puncture. And so what I had to explain to him, because we need patient advocates, and as a paramedic, I'm fairly uniquely suited for that. I've sat through a lot of lumbar punctures, some of my wife, some of people in the ER, and so on. And so I told him, I said, listen, buddy, here's what's going to happen. They're going to come in here and tell you a bunch of really scary things that could happen if it goes wrong. But you need this diagnostic. And so you're going to hear what they have to say, and then you're going to sign the papers, and they're going to do it. And anything that could happen on the lumbar puncture that goes wrong is transient. It might cause some pain for a little while. It could have some issues. But at the end of the day, it will stop, and you're in the right place for it to happen if it does. So sign. There are other things where people should say, look, it sounds really, really scary, and you don't want those things, but they're so unlikely that there's no reason for you to be concerned about it. Patient advocacy. It doesn't happen. We really do need it. Let's move back into the CR because it's fun. Okay? This is what happened. Donald Trump and Elon Musk unleashed a new type of chaos. This is coming from CNN again. It's coming from our friend Stephen Collinson, who we quoted for the first time in a while the other day. They just wanted a stopgap measure. Why are guys like this advocating on behalf of continued permanent government? The president-elect and the world's richest man. This sounds like the beginning of a really interesting joke or a story about how things get fixed. They combined on Wednesday to smash a short-term spending compromise. Again, that word compromise just means that the Democrats won, packed with nearly $100 billion in aid for Americans. Are you anti-American? They wanted to fix Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge. Do you know how much it was going to cost to fix that bridge, by the way? $8 billion, if you believe what it said in the CR. I've seen estimates by professional engineers that say that that is 4 times as much. That 1.9 to 2.1 billion is all it would take to be able to rebuild that bridge. That there's no reason for it to be 8 billion. Why would it be that? Because the government doesn't care about your money. Because it's not theirs. They live in a fantasy world. And so that's why Fox Business had to play this. This is like staggering, earth-shattering stuff if you break it down properly. We're going to do that as we keep going.
In the last couple of minutes, Donald Trump has told Fox News he is, quote, totally against the proposed continuing resolution bill that has just been floated by Congress. And a lot of people haven't had a chance to read it. It's more than 1,700 pages. But that spending bill is not sitting well with the president-elect. Again, please keep in mind that the House is controlled by Republicans. So this is engendering a lot of Sturm und Drang at the moment. And considering we do see a big drop here, we do see the NASDAQ down 648 points, S&P down 163.
Oh my God, there was a negative impact on the stock market because they wanted to send all of our money to places that it didn't belong and spend it when it didn't make any sense. They're very concerned about this. This is a game changer for the media. The media doesn't get it. And the media doesn't get it because this is what happened. A guy bought a media company. The new media. We played it the other day when Van Jones was saying, how in the world did Donald Trump realize that social media and the fringe is now the mainstream and the mainstream is now the fringe? They still can't really grasp it. They don't really get their head around it. Elon Musk derailed this bill with a little help from Vivek Ramaswamy and some tweets. But he backed it up. It's the reason why people say that the American dollar doesn't have anything behind it. There's no gold behind it. That's not exactly true. There is actually something behind the American dollar. For all of you crypto types and all of you gold lovers, I don't have any beef with that. I agree that the fiat currency is not great. But there is one thing that is behind it that you can't really ignore. It's called aircraft carriers. It's called the United States military and the projection of force. And Elon Musk is sort of the human embodiment of that in a threat. When it comes out, it was a tweet on social media backed by a man who has the ability to bankroll every single primary challenger against every single Republican that steps out of line when he says this needs to be done. And Elon Musk is interesting because he's a populist in a lot of ways, which is what he also said in his tweet after he followed up with victory. He's a populist because he's kind of like, for the richest guy in the world, he's kind of like a regular guy. In fact, I'm wearing clothes that would be worn by like an Elon Musk. It's a t-shirt and jeans. That's a thing you see the guy rolling around in. He might be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. But he's able to kind of operate with kind of this everyman sensibility in the same way that Donald Trump was interesting to people because he eats McDonald's and he walks around and he likes to like hang out with golfers and hang out with pretty women. And he thinks that nice things are nice. It's not that crazy. Elon Musk, even though he's very detached from like reality, I would imagine, he's like freaking flying rocket ships up and wants to go to Mars. But his instinct of like what is funny, the fact that he wants to play video games and have people just sort of appreciate that. There's a lot of the Elon Musk that is not world's most, wealthy man in the world because he didn't grow up that way. Unlike a lot of the leftist billionaires who have inherited their money. He earned it and he can do what he wants with it. And he does. He does it like he might not ever worry about running out of it because he created it out of wealth and knowledge and capabilities himself. For whatever that's worth. This is Fox News, not Fox Business, but Fox News, trying to grasp what just happened because it's too much for them.
We're told right now in the past 30 or 40 minutes here that they might try to pull this interim spending bill off the floor and maybe just go with a clean bill. Unclear what that means for disaster assistance. Here's what happened. A post on X by Elon Musk sent shockwaves through the Capitol. House Republicans were trying to see if they have enough votes to pass the spending bill in the next hour or two. Musk posted that anyone who votes yes should lose their office in 2 years, and lawmakers are scrambling.
Tweets from Musk, has that complicated this?
Well, I think that there's always a lot of interest in what's happening up here, and
this is more than interest. They're telling people if they vote yes, they should be voted out.
The social media world is a part of our politics, and I think members have to expect that.
Yeah, members do have to expect that. All right, as our chat just accurately pointed out, and Jen, you're correct, this is the American people's voice backed up by the aircraft carrier that is Elon Musk. The American people's voice was, we are sick of this crap. The reason why Donald Trump got elected was not to have more politics as usual, not have more Nostradamus being correct, that they waited till the last minute right before Christmas and then jammed down some garbage that we all have to just choke on for the next 3 months. How many people are thrilled about the idea of a government shutdown? I've seen multiple people that have spent their life in public service saying the same thing. I felt the same way. I went through a government shutdown in 2019. It was actually the end of 2018, right through Christmas. The shutdown happened, I think, on December 18th of 2018, right in that range. And my colleagues were flabbergasted. What were we going to do? How are we going to make our mortgage payment? They went for 35 days. They basically missed one paycheck because we get paid in arrears. They missed one paycheck for a few days. And there was panic. And there was devastation. And there were food kitchens set up where people could donate food to those people that worked in the building. Screw you, government employees who live so fat and do not save your money. You're just as irresponsible and just as on the edge of being one of those people that will come and take something from a convenience store because you can't afford it. It's called entitlement. And they have it. And government workers need to get their act together. The number of people that live under a national security clearance, that live and make a living because they have a top secret, secured compartmented information clearance, the highest that the government offers, that don't have any cash in the bank, is absurd. And it is a national security, it is a catastrophe that should be addressed in the Trump administration. You should not be able to be living paycheck to paycheck for years. You've had a job for 20 plus years. You're an FBI agent. You work in an intelligence analyst role for the DIA or the CIA or the NSA, and you can't make your mortgage payment for a couple of months without getting paid. You shouldn't have a clearance. I went 14 months without a paycheck, and my kids didn't even know that we didn't have money coming in. Because I prepared myself for that, because I thought that's how you insulate against the possible threat of being what's called an insider threat, where somebody can come and compromise you and take national security information because you're broke. If you're paycheck to paycheck working a government job where you've been paid for 15 years or 20 years and you don't have a couple of weeks worth of back savings, screw you, you're out. This should not be allowed. You should be adjudicated not worthy of a clearance. That is a hard take I will have. I had been in 2018, at the end of 2018, I'd had the job for just over 2 years. And I made like 80 grand a year, which is pretty good money, except when you live outside of Washington, D.C. I was 30 minutes commute into the downtown part of D.C. So we lived in a little house and we lived within our means with a vehicle that was paid off, and we didn't take on debt, and we didn't have a second car. And if my wife and I wanted to go somewhere at different times and I wasn't at work, then I didn't go. The end. Or she didn't go. Here's what a clean CR could look like. Vivek actually created this. I wonder if this actually came out of an AI program because it's so simple. You're seeing it on the screen. I highly encourage you guys to check it out. It's actually also in my Twitter feed. I retweeted it. So if you guys want to find it, the 118th Congress, 2D session, HR, fill in the name of the blank. I'm going to read the entire bill, folks, because that's how short a CR that's clean would be. Making further continuing appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025. A bill making further continuing appropriations for the fiscal year, September 30th, 2025. This is the entirety of the bill. Be it enacted by the House and the Senate of Representatives, by the United States of America, in Congress assembled. A short title, this act may be cited as the Furthering Continuing Appropriations Act 2025, the Continuing Appropriations Act 2025, Division A of Public Law 118-83 is amended by striking the date specified in Section 106.3 and inserting March 14, 2025. That's it. All you need to do is amend the bill that exists that is already doing the funding, change the date. This is a suboptimal interest. It's not great. It wouldn't be the best. And yet, they just can't do it because they want to screw you over. Here's Mike Johnson telling you that passing a big pork-filled garbage bill with 1,500 plus pages is actually conservative. This guy's got to go. Tom Massey already said he's going to vote for somebody else. I'd like to see it. You guys remember, I was never a Mike Johnson fan. I was a no one for speaker, so they wouldn't waste our money. This is another example of why he sucks.
This was the conservative play call. We don't normally like what's called a continuing resolution, a CR. But in this case, it makes sense because if we push it into the first quarter of next year, then we have a Republican-controlled Congress and President Donald J. Trump back in the White House will be able to have more say over the funding decisions for 2025. Now, that would have been an easier thing to do, but then we had circumstances outside of our control. We had these emergencies that are required. So we had, as you know, a record hurricane season. We had Helene and Milton, and they just did massive destruction across our red states, frankly, in the southeast and the eastern side of the country. And then we've had farmers who are in jeopardy. They've had 3 lost years in a row because of Bidenomics and inflation and other.
Oh, because things have been bad and we couldn't predict that these were going to happen. Then we just decided that we couldn't do anything in a single spending measure or a single item issue bill, which is what we were promised when we were getting a new speaker. But obviously we didn't get because we just got more swamp. And his name is Mike Johnson. You know how I know this was a big loss? Because Dan Goldman is really upset that this thing was shut down. Again, bipartisanship means Democrats win, Republicans lose more slowly. That's what it means. Republicans do a terrible job negotiating. This has been a game change in the last 24 hours. They are starting to realize that the American people's voice is going to be heard because they are backed up by something that they've never been backed up before. The aircraft carrier, the USS Elon Musk. Here's Dan Goldman being Dan Goldman.
So I think it's fair to call this an 11th hour monkey wrench in the works, 2 days from shutdown. What's the calculation here by Trump and Musk?
I don't really think there is a calculation. Honestly, I think they've been clearly, as Donald Trump has been asleep at the wheel. This is being negotiated intensively for weeks now. I find it hard to believe that Trump was not clued into what was going on, but probably more likely just paid no interest until his benefactor, the one who spent nearly $300 million to get him elected, the one multi-billionaire richest man on earth who has numerous federal contracts, chimed in to a...
Yeah, he's really upset about that. This is a guy that inherited his money. Again, another one of those, $300 million-ish. Guy inherited the Levi Strauss fortune, and he's going to talk about people with money having inordinate influence after he bought his congressional seat. So screw you. We don't care. This is not unique. Democrats don't like it. This is, hold on, this is she, her. This is really fun. Here she is. Her name is Becca Ballant. Never heard of her. She has the same size Twittering following that I got in 2 months. She's a mother, a teacher, a Vermonter, a writer, a congresswoman. She's a she, her. She's a LGBTQ official, apparently, based on her flag, whatever the hell that means. She's on the House Judiciary. She's been on the Budget Committee. And she said that Democrats are just like Republicans. We're all mad because someone decided to use the First Amendment, which is to say that you can weigh in. And Elon Musk chose to do it. He just got a bigger microphone because he bought a media platform. This is them slowly realizing how irrelevant they are. And we can lambast them because you're in America, lady. Nothing like Congress telling you that they don't like people speaking up. They think you shouldn't have a say. It's pretty telling.
I was literally moments ago in an elevator with some Republican members who are fuming about the fact that Musk is inserting himself into this conversation and that the threats over Twitter,
X,
the threats over X, to primary them, to come after them, so privately at least they've had it. They've had it with people like Musk who think that they have the right to insert themselves into a process of elected officials.
Yeah, that process of elected officials, we do have the right to insert ourselves. It's called the First Amendment. Welcome to serving the people, Representative. What the hell's wrong with these people? All right, I told you I'd do a radicalization. Right after that, we're going to go to the American Radicals podcast. So stick around, enjoy this next few seconds, and then we will transition to my friends over at the AMRAD Pod, which you can follow over at rumble.com/AMRAD-pod, and we will dump you straight in there with the raid function if you are where we are. Otherwise, if you're on X, follow them. It's x.com/AMRAD-pod. Thanks for joining the program. I hope you guys will share it with at least one person today that you love, if nothing else, to share the palate cleanse, which is going to be fantastic. Radicalized by Bigfoot.
Past, they're like, Mike, you used to be so liberal. What happened? And the only way I can describe it is like, imagine you and your friend really like camping, and you go camping all the time. But then one day your friend starts telling you they're really worried about Bigfoot. They think Bigfoot's going to get them specifically. And then they don't stop camping, but they start telling people that they're really brave for camping and that they're camping in protest of Bigfoot. And then you kind of pull your friend aside and you're like, hey, I don't think you need to worry about Bigfoot as much as you're worried about Bigfoot. I don't think it's actually mentally healthy for you to worry about this much about Bigfoot. But then they start saying, hey, that sounds like something a fucking Sasquatch would say. And you're like, fuck you, I'm not a Sasquatch. But then they start telling the other campers that you're making them feel unsafe and that they shouldn't let you in the Jeep Wrangler anymore. So you get really frustrated and you're like, fuck you, maybe I am a Sasquatch. And you start posting pro Bigfoot memes online, not because you believe them, but just you kind of want to get under their skin a little bit. But then you've also been listening to the things that Bigfoot's been saying on podcasts, and it doesn't all make sense, but some of it kind of tracks. Like maybe Smokey the Bear is lying to us about where the origins of forest fires and what's going on in Ukraine. So then all of your friends are starting to become really obnoxious. And all they talk about is Bigfoot. Meanwhile, you've been making small donations to the Sasquatch Party. Nothing huge, but enough that they send you a shirt that says Make America Gigantopithecus again. And then at that point, you're wearing the shirt in a Buc-ee's and one of your friends camping sees it and you're like, I'm never getting back in that fucking Jeep Cherokee again. God damn it.
And that is it, folks. Listen, we don't say Merry Christmas here. What we do say is may the birth of the one true God be a blessing on your household and drive out all of the false gods, lest you be gay. That's a quick little quote from Thankful and Glad. If you want to leave us a 5-star review over on Apple, I'd really appreciate it. I thank you for watching our show today, which I was very excited to give to you. And I hope that you have a wonderful Thursday. And we'll see you again tomorrow for Friendly Friday. Let's go to the American Radicals podcast right now. God bless you. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.